The ISS Horizon drifted silently among the stars, her white hull glowing faintly under the light of a distant sun. She was not the largest ship humanity had built, nor the most advanced, but she carried something far more important: hope, curiosity, and the stubborn courage of her crew. For months, the Horizon had been on a deep exploration mission. Humanity had grown restless with their small corner of the galaxy. Earth was no longer enough. Mars, Luna, and the colonies near the inner rim had become too familiar. People wanted more. They wanted to know what lay beyond the edge of mapped space. The Horizon's crew of 100 men and women carried that dream. They scanned planets, charted stars, and sent back data to Earth with cheerful reports. Every discovery was logged with care. Every unknown anomaly was treated with excitement. For the crew, it was not danger, it was adventure. Captain Elias Reyes sat in his chair on the bridge, watching the view. He was a man who carried calm like armor. His short hair had turned gray at the edges, but his eyes still burned with quiet fire. Many captains before him had panicked in the unknown. But Reyes was different. He believed the unknown was just a new friend waiting to be met. The crew trusted him. Lieutenant Kara, the ship's navigator, often said, "The captain could watch the universe fall apart and still sip his coffee like nothing's wrong." And in a way, that was true. On that day, the Horizon was preparing for a routine jump. The engines hummed with energy, the corridors vibrated softly, and the crew strapped themselves in. Another jump, another system to map. Nothing unusual, but fate does not always ask permission. As the engines roared to life, a flicker of static ran through the power core. A ripple of energy bent the space around the ship. At first, no one noticed. It seemed like a normal fluctuation. Then alarms began to sing. Lights flickered. A hum turned into a scream. "Core imbalance!" Kara shouted from her console. "We're slipping off the jump line!" "Stabilizers at maximum!" Chief Engineer Dalen yelled through comms. Sparks danced around him as he fought the surging systems. Captain Reyes tightened his grip on his chair. His voice was steady, calm. "Hold course. Don't fight it too hard. Ride the wave." The Horizon groaned like a wounded animal. For a few terrifying seconds, the stars stretched into endless white lines. Gravity twisted, pressing the crew into their seats. Some closed their eyes, whispering prayers. Others gritted their teeth, clinging to controls. And then, silence. The ship floated in calm space once more. Systems stabilized. The alarms faded into quiet. The crew opened their eyes, breathing heavily. They had made it, or so they thought. Kara checked her screens, her brow furrowed. "Captain, this isn't on any map." Reyes leaned forward. Outside the viewport, the stars looked different. Too many, too bright. And in the distance, structures. Massive ones. Not asteroids. Not natural cities in orbit. Space stations so large they looked like moons. Fleets of ships moving in perfect formation. Their hulls marked with glowing sigils. The crew fell silent, staring. "We're not in human space anymore," Kara whispered. Her words carried a weight that pressed on every heart. Humanity's farthest frontier was hundreds of light years away. No jump should have carried them this far. And yet, here they were. The sensors flickered with warnings, thousands of signals, ships of every size, patrols moving in complex patterns. Communication bursts filled the airwaves, sharp and disciplined. They had not stumbled upon an empty system. They had stumbled into an empire. A young ensign, barely 20, whispered, "Captain, what do we do?" Reyes didn't answer immediately. His eyes studied the massive ships in the distance. Their designs were alien, elegant, and terrifying. Each one could probably destroy the Horizon with a single shot. Yet when he finally spoke, his voice was calm, almost amused. "Well, Reyes said softly. Add this to the list. The crew turned toward him in disbelief. The list? Kara asked. The list of strange things humanity keeps bumping into, Reyes replied. We've seen pirate lords. We've survived superstorms. We've outrun collapsing stars. This, he gestured toward the alien armada, is just another chapter. Some of the crew chuckled nervously, the tension breaking slightly. Others shook their heads, amazed by his calmness. But deep inside, all of them knew the truth. This was different. This was bigger than anything they had seen before. An empire stretched before them, powerful and ancient, and humanity had just wandered straight into its heart. In the command chamber of one of those alien warships, alarms were already flashing. The intruder had been detected. A strange vessel, unknown design, unauthorized jump. Admiral Thale of the Stellar Dominion leaned forward on his throne-like chair, his silver skin glowing under the light of his control screens. His voice was deep and sharp as he ordered, "Bring it on display." The horizon appeared in the middle of his screen, small, fragile, human. He narrowed his eyes. For 10,000 years, no foreign ship had dared enter Dominion space. And now, one had. Prepare a fleet, he commanded coldly. We will crush this trespasser. Let the galaxy remember the price of intrusion. Back on the horizon, the humans watched as dozens, then hundreds of alien warships turned toward them, engines flaring like suns. Lieutenant Kara whispered, "They're surrounding us." Captain Reyes sipped his coffee, his calm unbroken. "Then let's be polite," he said. "First impressions matter." The crew prepared for what was coming. Fear sat heavy in their chests, but beside it burned something else. Curiosity, courage, and the quiet defiance that only humans carried. The accident had taken them farther than they ever dreamed, and unknowingly, humanity had just stepped into history. The Stellar Dominion was old, too old, some said. For over 10,000 years, its banners had stretched across countless stars. Its fleets patrolled every border, its laws carved into the lives of billions of subjects. To live under the Dominion was to live in order, and in fear. The Solari, tall and silver-skinned, believed themselves chosen to rule. Their empire was built on pride, tradition, and power. No foreign ship had entered their space in centuries. Those who dared were destroyed before they could even explain themselves. And now, on this quiet day, the silence of the empire broke. Admiral Thale stood at the center of his command chamber, his towering form gleaming under the soft light of crystalline screens. He was a veteran of countless wars. His sharp eyes had seen rebellions crushed, pirates burned, and fleets erased. Yet when the strange human vessel appeared on his display, he felt something unusual. Not fear, not anger, but curiosity. The ship was small, nothing compared to the Dominion's warships. Its hull design was crude by Solari standards. The energy readings were weak, the shielding outdated. And yet, there it was, sailing boldly into forbidden space, without hesitation, without even hiding. Thale's second-in-command, Commander Vera, hissed in disbelief. Primitive design, yet they dare to appear here. Should we destroy them immediately? The Admiral did not answer at once. He leaned closer, studying the strange vessel. Something about it unsettled him. It wasn't the ship's power. It was the way it moved, calm, almost casual, as if it didn't realize it was a mouse walking into a lion's den. Finally, Thale gave his order. "Surround them! Do not fire yet! I want to hear what they have to say." Across the border systems, alarms spread like wildfire. Patrol fleets changed course. Battle stations came to life. In less than an hour, the human ship was no longer alone. Dozens of Dominion warships closed in, their hulls glowing with power. From every angle, they formed a cage of steel and fire. On the horizon, the crew watched the screens fill with alien signals. The enemy ships were sleek, dark, and dangerous. Each one looked large enough to swallow their vessel whole. Lieutenant. Kara gripped her console tightly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed fear. They've surrounded us completely. Captain, they could destroy us with one volley. Captain Reyes leaned back in his chair, arms folded. His face was calm, almost amused. Then it's a good thing they haven't fired yet. The crew exchanged nervous glances. How could he be so calm when death floated all around them? Yet deep down they knew why. It was because this wasn't the first time humanity had stood against impossible odds. The comms crackled alive. A voice filled the horizon's bridge. It was deep, powerful, and laced with arrogance. This is Admiral Thale of the Sealer Dominion. You have trespassed into sacred space. Identify yourselves at once. Kneel before the Dominion, and perhaps you will be spared. The words hung heavy in the air. The Dominion expected fear. They expected panic, begging, and surrender. For 10,000 years, this demand had been answered with silence or with the cries of those destroyed. But the humans did not kneel. Captain Reyes glanced at Kara, who had frozen at her console, uncertain. Then he pressed the comm button himself. His voice carried none of the fear the Dominion expected. It was casual, almost cheerful. Hello, Admiral. We're the crew of the Horizon, just explorers passing through. Lovely space you've got here. The bridge of the Dominion flagship fell silent. Officers stared at each other in shock. Had they heard correctly? Had these fragile outsiders just greeted the Dominion like neighbors? Reyes continued before Thale could answer. And about that kneeling thing? He gave a small shrug, though the Admiral could not see it. Sorry, we don't do that. Not really our style. But we'd be happy to sit down and talk. Maybe over coffee? Gasps filled the Dominion bridge. Some officers whisper. The ISS Horizon was escorted through space like a prisoner. Around her, Dominion warships glided in perfect formation, their dark silver hulls glowing with energy. Each ship was massive, towering over the human vessel like predators circling prey. Inside the Horizon, the crew sat in uneasy silence. Their screens were filled with the signals of hundreds of alien ships. The Dominion's fleet was disciplined, every movement precise. It felt less like an escort and more like a cage closing in. Lieutenant Kara's hands moved quickly over her. Controls, her voice tight. They're guiding us deeper, Captain. Straight into their territory, there's no exit route. Captain Reyes leaned back in his chair, his calmness like a wall against the fear creeping through the crew. He studied the glowing patterns on the alien ships. It's all right. Let them take us where they want. We'll see what they have to say. His words gave little comfort, but there was something steady in his tone. The crew had learned to trust. 8 hours passed. The Horizon flew in silence, guarded by an Empire's wrath. Then, without warning, the Dominion flagship sent a direct hail. The screen on the Horizon's bridge flickered to life, and for the first time, the crew saw their captors face to face. Admiral Thale appeared, tall and broad-shouldered, his silver, skin gleaming like polished steel. His eyes were sharp, like blades waiting to strike. Behind him, the command chamber of the Dominion flagship glowed with alien symbols and restless officers. The Admiral's voice filled the Horizon. Humans, you stand in the presence of the Sealer Dominion. You will answer our questions. You will obey our laws, kneel before us, or be destroyed. The crew froze. The words echoed like a hammer striking stone. For centuries, such demands had broken entire species. Kneeling was the only way outsiders survived, but not this time. Captain. Reyes rose from his chair, standing tall against the screen. His uniform was simple, his ship small, but there was no weakness in his posture. His eyes met Thales without flinching. "Kneel?" Reyes repeated, his tone calm but firm. "Sorry, Admiral. That's not really our way. We don't kneel. Not to kings, not to empires, not to anyone." The bridge of the Dominion flagship filled with gasps. Officers looked at each other, shocked. Some hissed with anger, others whispered in disbelief. No one had ever dared speak like that. Commander Vera, Thales' second, leaned close to him and snarled, "They mock us. They should be ash already." But Thales raised his hand, silencing her. His eyes narrowed. He studied Reyes carefully, as if trying to read something hidden behind his words. Reyes continued, his voice steady. "We're explorers. We didn't mean to wander into your territory, but since we're here, we'd prefer to talk, not fight. We've got no weapons aimed at you. All we brought is ourselves, and maybe a few cups of coffee." A few chuckles broke out on the Horizon's bridge, nervous but real. The Dominion officers, however, were stunned. Coffee? Did this human not understand the seriousness of the moment? Reyes's casual tone carried a strange weight. He was not mocking, not begging, not boasting. He was simply normal. And that normalcy was more dangerous to the Dominion than open defiance. Admiral Thale leaned back in his chair. His expression was unreadable. For centuries, every species that faced the Dominion trembled. Yet these humans, standing in the shadow of an empire, treated the encounter as though it were nothing new. Finally, the Admiral spoke again, his voice colder. "You are bold, human. Too bold. You insult the Dominion with your casual words. Do you not understand the power that surrounds you?" Reyes gave a small smile. "Oh, I understand perfectly. You've got enough firepower to wipe us out in a second. But power doesn't impress us much. We've seen powerful things before. And we're still here." Silence followed. The human's words were simple, but they carried a weight that echoed across both ships. On the Dominion bridge, some officers grew restless. "Admiral, this is madness. They should be destroyed," one shouted. "If we show mercy, others will think us weak." But Thale raised his hand again. Deep inside, a strange thought had begun to take root. If humans truly had faced great powers before, what did that mean? Were they lying? Or had they survived dangers that even the Dominion could not imagine? Back on the Horizon, the tension eased slightly. The crew looked at their captain with admiration. His calm defiance gave them strength. If he could stand tall before an empire, then so could they. Lieutenant Kara whispered, "Captain, you just told an empire we don't kneel. You know that could get us all killed." Reyes glanced at her, his smile faint but steady. "Maybe. But if we kneel once, we'll never stop kneeling. Humanity doesn't bow. Not today, not tomorrow." The crew exchanged glances. Fear still lived in their hearts, but alongside it, something else grew. Pride. On the Dominion flagship, Admiral Thale made his decision. His voice thundered across the comms. "Very well. If you will not kneel, then you will be judged. You are ordered to appear before the High Council of the Dominion. Your words will decide your fate." The screen went dark. The Horizon's crew sat in silence. Their hearts pounded. They were being taken deeper into the Empire's heart, straight to its rulers. Some whispered prayers. Others tightened their fists. But Captain Reyes simply sat back in his chair, his calm unbroken. "Well," he said softly, "looks like we've got an appointment." Outside the viewport, the alien fleets turned, guiding the small human vessel toward the core of the Dominion. Millions of eyes across the Empire were now watching, and for the first time in centuries, an empire built on fear had been met with something it had never seen before: humans who refused to bow. The Stellar Dominion was not just an empire. It was a machine of order built over 10,000 years. Every world, every station, every fleet moved in rhythm, guided by the will of the High Council. Nothing unexpected was allowed. Nothing foreign survived. So when news of the human ship spread, the Dominion shook. In the capital world, Xylaris, the High Council gathered inside the Grand Chamber. The hall was vast, filled with shining pillars and glowing banners. The councilors, draped in silver robes, whispered angrily among themselves, "How dare they enter our space?" One thundered, his voice echoing. "They refuse to kneel!" Another hissed. "For centuries, every species has bowed before us." "This is an insult to our honor!" shouted a third, slamming his hand on the table. The chamber boiled with outrage. The story of the horizon had already traveled through the networks of the Empire. Billions had heard the rumor. Strangers had appeared, and instead of trembling, they spoke as if the Dominion was nothing special. For a proud empire, this was more dangerous than war. Fear was their weapon, and if that fear broke, so too would their control. Admiral Thales stood before the council, his tall form unshaken. His silver skin glimmered in the chamber's light, but his face was calm. He had seen the humans with his own eyes, and he knew they were unlike others. "The humans are not what they seem," Thales said firmly. "They are not powerful in numbers or in ships, but they are fearless. They treated our fleets as if they were ordinary patrols. They refused to kneel, yet they did not speak with arrogance. They spoke as if they had faced worse before." The council erupted again. "Impossible!" one shouted. "They insult us!" another cried. But a few councilors fell silent. Thal's words unsettled them. If the humans had truly faced greater powers, then what kind of species were they? Meanwhile, across the empire, whispers grew. On border worlds, merchants and soldiers discussed the humans with awe. They told the admiral they don't kneel. They stood against a whole fleet without fear. Maybe the Dominion isn't as untouchable as it claims. The idea spread like fire. The Dominion's people, who had lived for centuries under strict rule, felt something strange stirring inside them. Hope. If humans could speak so boldly, perhaps others could too. On the horizon, the crew had no idea how deeply their words had cut into the Empire's heart. They only saw the fleets around them and felt the weight of every eye watching. Lieutenant Kara leaned over her console, speaking quietly to Captain Reyes. "Sir, do you realize what we've done? They're not just angry, they're shaken." "I can feel it." Reyes gave a faint smile, sipping his ever-present coffee. "Empires built on fear don't know what to do when someone isn't afraid. That's their weakness." The crew looked at him, a mixture of fear and pride in their eyes. Some were still trembling, but they understood. Their calm defiance had struck harder than any weapon. Back in the Grand Chamber, the council continued to argue. One of the younger councilors, a woman with sharp eyes, raised her voice above the chaos. "Perhaps we should not destroy them," she said. "Perhaps we should study them. If they have survived worse, we must know how." The older councilors scoffed. "Study them? They are insects who mock us." But Admiral Thales' deep voice silenced them. "Mock us, yes. But they live. They wander into our empire without fear. And already our people whisper of them. If we crush them, they will become martyrs. If we listen, perhaps we will learn something dangerous." His words left the chamber uneasy. The councilors exchanged troubled glances. For the first time, in centuries, the Dominion's rulers could not agree. Meanwhile, in the shadowed corners of Xylaris, ordinary citizens watched the news streams. The story of the humans spread like lightning. Workers in the factories whispered, "If they can stand tall, why can't we?" Students in the academies murmured. They laughed at the council's demands, laughed, even soldiers. The ISS Horizon traveled deeper into Dominion space, still surrounded by an escort fleet. To the crew, it felt like walking through the heart of a storm, every direction filled with danger, yet no lightning had struck. Not yet. The Dominion ships kept their distance but never broke formation. Their presence was a constant reminder. One wrong move, and the horizon would be reduced to dust. Inside the human vessel, the crew tried to carry on as if it were a normal day. Some played cards in the mess hall. Others worked on reports, yet beneath their forced calm, unease simmered. Lieutenant Kara sat at her console, watching the endless stream of alien signals. Her eyes grew heavy, but her mind refused to rest. She finally turned toward Captain Reyes, who sat in his chair, with his usual steady calm. "Sir," she said quietly, "do you really think they'll let us walk out of this alive?" Reyes looked at her for a long moment, then gave a faint smile. "Kara, survival is never given. It's taken. If they want to test us, we'll show them what humans do best. We endure." His words spread quietly through the bridge, like a spark of courage in the darkness. But outside, the Dominion's anger continued to grow. The Horizon's refusal to kneel had spread across the Empire like wildfire. On border stations, soldiers muttered about it. In cities, whispers grew bolder, and in the High Council, voices of fury clashed with voices of doubt. "This insolence cannot stand," roared one elder counselor. "If we allow them to live, others will follow their example." Yet another, younger member spoke with hesitation. "But if we destroy them, we confirm the fear that binds us. Perhaps it is better to understand them?" The council argued, their unity cracking. And in that crack, rebellion's shadow began to grow. Meanwhile, the Horizon's escort suddenly slowed. Kara's console flashed warnings. "Captain," she said sharply, "they're pulling us near a red star. Multiple fleets converging. It looks like a trap." The crew tensed. Around them, hundreds of Dominion ships appeared from the void, surrounding them in every direction. Weapons glowed, charging with deadly power. On the horizon, silence fell. The crew felt their hearts pound in their chests. The Dominion had finally decided. A harsh voice filled the comms. "This is Commander Vera of the Dominion. Leave at once, or be destroyed. You have defied our laws. You will not leave this place alive." The crew looked at their captain. Reyes stood slowly, his eyes sharp, his calm unshaken. He pressed the comm button, his voice clear and steady. "Commander, we didn't come here to fight, but if you attack us, we will defend ourselves, and you might not like how humans fight." The words struck hard, not shouted, not proud, but firm, born of history and scars. On the Dominion bridge, Vera sneered. "Your little vessel cannot stand against us. You are surrounded by the might of an empire." Reyes answered with quiet strength. "Maybe so. But empires have surrounded humans before. Empires stronger than you, and we are still here." The crew felt shivers run through them. His words were not just defiance, they were truth. Humanity had survived countless storms. They had bled, but they never broke. Vera's patience snapped. With a gesture, she gave the order. A massive warship fired, a beam of energy cutting across the void and slamming into the Horizon's shields. The ship shook violently, alarms screaming. Sparks burst across the bridge. But the humans did not panic. "Shields holding at 60%, Kara shouted. "Diverting power from secondary systems," Engineer Dalen called. "Return fire," Reyes ordered. The Horizon fired a volley of plasma shots, not powerful enough to destroy the massive warship, but precise, hitting weak points, targeting sensors, distracting the fleet. The Dominion expected the humans to collapse in seconds. Instead, the Horizon danced. It twisted between ships, used the pull of the Red Star's gravity, fired decoys, and launched flares to confuse targeting systems. What the humans lacked in power, they made up for with creativity. On the bridge, sweat dripped down Kara's face, but her voice was steady. "Captain, if we stay still, we're dead. If we move fast, maybe we make it." "Then we move," Reyes replied. The horizon surged forward, dodging blasts that shook the void. Larger ships tried to corner it, but the humans were unpredictable. They feigned weakness, then struck back with precision. They lured Dominion ships into colliding. They turned desperation into strategy. The battle raged on, and slowly, the mighty Dominion fleet realized something unthinkable. This tiny human ship was surviving. On her flagship, Commander Vera's fury boiled. "Impossible!" she shouted. "They are ants! Crush them!" But Admiral Thale, watching from another vessel, narrowed his eyes. He saw something she did not. The humans fought not like prey, but like survivors who had faced death too many. Times to fear it. Back on the horizon, the crew held together, every hand working, every mind focused. Fear burned in their veins, but alongside it came pride. They were human, and that meant something. After long hours, the Dominion fleet finally pulled back. Damaged ships limped away. Commanders argued over comms. The horizon was battered, her shields nearly gone, but she was still flying. A stunned silence filled the bridge. The young ensign whispered, We fought an Empire's fleet, and we're still here." Captain Reyes sat back in his chair, breathing slowly. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with quiet fire. "Remember this, all of you. They're powerful, yes, but they're not invincible. No one is." The horizon drifted through the wreckage, scarred but alive. Around them, the Dominion reeled from the humiliation, an empire that had crushed all. Defiance now carried the shame of being defied by a single human ship. And across the galaxy, whispers grew louder. Who are these humans? What kind of species laughs in the face of an empire? The Dominion had tried to crush them. Instead, they had lit a flame. The horizon drifted through space, wounded but alive. Its hull carried scorch marks from enemy fire, and its shields were almost drained. Yet inside the ship, the crew's spirits burned brighter than ever. They had faced the storm and survived. In the mess hall, tired voices whispered with a mix of disbelief and pride. Some laughed nervously, others simply sat in silence, staring at the floor, still trying to process what they had lived through. Lieutenant Kara leaned against a wall, her arms crossed, watching her fellow crewmates. She saw the fear in their eyes, but also something else, respect for themselves. They had not broken. They had stood against an empire. She thought of the Dominion ships retreating, their mighty fleet pulling back from a single human vessel. The image would not leave her mind. A small smile touched her lips. Captain Reyes entered the room, his posture straight, his face calm despite exhaustion. The crew rose instinctively, but he waved them down. "Sit," he said softly. His voice was tired but firm. "You've all earned it." The room grew quiet as everyone waited for him to speak. "We fought an empire today," he continued, "and we live to tell about it. Not because we're stronger, not because we're faster, but because we are human. We adapt, we endure, and we refuse to kneel." A ripple of pride moved through the room. For a brief moment, the weight of fear lifted. But beyond the horizon, the galaxy was stirring. News of the battle spread quickly through Dominion space. For centuries, no one had dared to stand against them. Every species bowed. Every rebellion was crushed before it could breathe. But now, whispers filled the dark corners of the empire. The humans survived. The humans defied them. Perhaps the Dominion can bleed after all. On distant worlds, workers in factories paused, imagining freedom. On conquered planets, secret voices. shared the tale of the small human ship that had fought the impossible and won. But inside the Dominion High Council, the mood was darker than ever. Commander Vera stood before the elders, her voice sharp with fury. "They humiliated us. A single vessel mocked our strength. If we do not crush them now, the galaxy will think us weak." The council chamber buzzed with unease. One elder slammed his staff against the floor. "Destroy them! Erase their world before their defiance spreads." Yet another voice, calm but heavy, spoke from the shadows. It was Admiral Thaley. His tone carried both warning and curiosity. "Perhaps we should not be so hasty," he said. "Their technology is crude, yes, but their will is unlike anything I have seen. If one ship can defy us, imagine what their fleets could do." The council erupted in argument. Some demanded immediate war. Others whispered of caution. For the first time in centuries, doubt cracked the unity of the Empire. Back on the horizon, the crew repaired what they could. Sparks were patched, consoles rebuilt, systems rebooted. The ship looked battered, but it refused to fall. Kara worked alongside Dalen in the engineering bay. Sweat dripped from their faces as they adjusted damaged conduits. "You know what this means, right?" Dalen muttered. "What?" Kara asked, tightening a bolt. "They won't let us go. We embarrassed them. Now we're a target." Kara paused, her eyes meeting his. There was truth in his words, and she felt the weight of it. But then she remembered Reyes's calm voice. "We endure." She nodded slowly. "Then we keep moving. That's what humans do." Days passed. The horizon drifted closer to the edge of Dominion territory, guided by charts hastily created from scans. Every jump brought them closer to home, but also deeper into danger. The Dominion was everywhere. Then it happened. A massive fleet appeared, on their sensors blocking their path. Dozens of warships filled the void, their weapons glowing with power. The bridge fell silent as Kara reported, her voice trembling. The horizon floated at the edge of Dominion space, a lone speck against the vastness of the stars. For days, Admiral Thale's fleet had shadowed them, neither striking nor retreating. It was like standing before a storm, waiting to see if the thunder would fall. Inside the ship, the crew felt the pressure building. Every beep of the scanners, every flicker of light carried a weight that pressed against their hearts. They were alive, yes, but they were trapped in a game they did not fully understand. Lieutenant Kara sat in her chair on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the endless dark beyond the viewport. Her fingers tapped nervously against her console. She wanted to believe they were close to freedom, but deep down she knew something was coming, something big. Captain Reyes stood at the center, calm as always, though inside his thoughts churned. He knew what the Dominion was capable of. He had read the history of their conquests, seen the fear they spread across civilizations, yet he also knew what humanity had faced in its own history. Tyrants, wars, despair, and every time, humans had risen from the ashes. The silence broke when the sensors blared. Kara's voice rose above the alarms. "Captain, multiple fleets emerging. From hyperspace. Not just one. 5. The screen lit up with symbols. Dozens of Dominion ships unfolded like predators surrounding prey. They were larger than before, stronger, their weapons burning with lethal energy. Gasps filled the bridge. Even the bravest felt a chill. Reyes narrowed his eyes. So this is their answer. Moments later, the main screen shifted, and the face of Commander Vera appeared. Her expression was sharp with hatred, her voice dripping with venom. "Humans, did you think we would let you live after your insult? You will not leave this space alive. Today, your kind will be erased from history." The crew stiffened, but Reyes did not flinch. "You tried to erase us once before," he said firmly. "History remembers those who resist, and we will resist again." Vera sneered. "Arrogance. You think you are different from the others we conquered, but you will. Break! The channel cut. The fleets began to move. On the bridge, tension thickened like iron chains. Kara looked at Reyes, her voice low. Captain, we can't fight them all. Not this time. Reyes nodded slowly. I know. He turned to his crew, his face lit by the cold glow of the screens. Listen to me. We may not have the firepower, but we have something stronger. Our spirit. We don't surrender. Not now, not ever. We'll make them remember us. The crew straightened, fear still in their eyes, but burning beside something fiercer, determination. The first wave of Dominion fire struck. The horizon shook violently, alarms screaming. Sparks flew from consoles. Dalen shouted from engineering, shields dropping to 40%. The crew fought to keep the ship alive. Every hit rocked them closer to destruction, yet every move carried defiance. They fired torpedoes, launched countermeasures, twisted through the firestorm like a wounded beast refusing to die. But the Dominion was endless. For every ship they struck, 3 more pressed in. The horizon was bleeding, its hull cracking, engines groaning. In the chaos, Kara's console flickered with a strange signal. Her eyes widened. Captain, I'm picking up transmissions from nearby systems. Other species, they're listening. They're watching this battle live. Reyes's heart pounded. This was no longer just survival. This was a message. He raised his voice, his words steady and clear, carried through every open channel. To anyone who can hear us, this is Captain Reyes of the human ship Horizon. The Dominion believes we will kneel. They believe all of you will kneel. But look at us. We still stand. If we can resist, so can you. They are not gods. They can bleed. And they can fall. His words spread through space like fire through dry grass. On hidden worlds, slaves paused at their work, their hearts beating faster. On conquered planets, whispers rose to shouts. Hope flared. Commander Vera heard the speech too, her rage boiling. Cut their signal, destroy them now! But it was too late. The seed had been planted. The Dominion ships unleashed everything. The horizon shook as explosions tore through its hull. Fire spread across the decks, and the crew fought to hold the ship together. Dalen's voice cried over comms. Engines failing! We can't hold much longer! Reyes gripped his chair, his knuckles white. He knew the truth. This might be their last stand. But even as the ship broke around them, the crew did not falter. Kara's eyes burned with tears, yet she kept fighting. Dalen's hands bled from burned controls, but he refused to stop. Every member of the Horizon gave everything they had. Finally, a massive blast struck. The ship spun out of control, alarm screaming as the lights dimmed. The Horizon was dying. On the bridge, smoke filled the air. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Reyes looked at his crew, his voice hoarse but steady. If this is the end, then let it be the kind of end they'll never forget. Kara looked at him, tears streaking her face. Captain, it was an honor. The crew nodded silently, united in that moment. Fear was gone. What remained was pride. Outside, the Dominion ships closed in for the kill, their weapons charged, ready to finish it. But across the galaxy, countless eyes were watching, and countless hearts were stirring. The horizon might fall, but the story would not, because the humans had shown the truth. The Empire could be defied, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The horizon burned like a falling star. Its hull was torn, flames spilling into the void, but even as it crumbled, the ship's spirit refused to die. Inside, the crew held their stations, battered yet unbroken, every heartbeat echoing with defiance. Kara's hands trembled on her console, smoke stinging her eyes. The alarms screamed endlessly, but her gaze stayed fixed on the stars. Somewhere beyond this chaos, she believed, Someone was listening. Someone would carry their story forward. In engineering, Dalen coughed through the haze, sparks bursting around him as systems failed one by one. His voice cracked over comms. "Reactors unstable. We've only got minutes." On the bridge, Captain Reyes stood tall despite the fire crawling up the walls. His uniform was torn, his face streaked with ash, but his eyes burned with steady light. He knew the truth. The horizon could not be saved, but perhaps their sacrifice could save others. "Kara," he said quietly, "open every channel, broadcast everything, our fight, our words, our resistance. Let the galaxy see who we are." Her throat tightened, but she obeyed. A signal spread like a beacon, carrying images of the horizon's last stand across every Dominion frequency. Millions across conquered worlds saw the battered human ship defy a mighty empire. Billions felt a spark inside them they thought long dead. Commander Vera's fleet pressed in. On her command ship, she watched in fury as the humans' message reached her own citizens. Fear spread through her officers, not of the horizon, but of what it represented. "End this!" Vera roared. "Destroy them now!" The Dominion ships unleashed their wrath. Beams of fire cut across the horizon, tearing away its wings, ripping its hull apart. The ship groaned like a dying giant, yet still it fought. Torpedoes launched, cannons fired, every last weapon screaming in defiance. One Dominion cruiser exploded under the horizon's final strike. Another fell silent, drifting into the void. Even in death, humanity clawed back pieces of victory. The bridge shook violently. Kara fell from her chair, blood running from her forehead. Reyes pulled her up, steadying her. Around them, consoles, shattered, and the deck split apart. "This is it," she whispered. Reyes looked at his crew, his voice soft but strong. "No, this is the beginning. They will remember us, not as victims, not as prey, but as the spark they could never extinguish." The crew met his gaze. In that moment, there was no fear left, only pride, the reactor overload built to its peak. Dalen's final words came over comms, his voice calm now. "Captain, it's ready." Reyes closed his eyes, then nodded. He pressed the final command. Outside, the horizon glowed brighter and brighter, its core turning into a sun. The Dominion ships around it tried to flee, but the explosion came too fast. In a flash of white light, the horizon erupted, a storm of fire swallowing the nearest enemy ships. Silence followed. Where the horizon had been, only drifting wreckage remained. The humans were gone, but their message lived. Across the galaxy, the signal carried on. On a mining world, slaves dropped their tools, tears streaming down their faces as they whispered, "Humans." For the first time in years, they dared to hope. On a forgotten planet under Dominion control, children gathered around a flickering screen, eyes wide as they watched the horizon fight. They saw not weakness, but strength. They saw that the Empire was not unbreakable. Even among the Dominion's own people, whispers spread. If these small, fragile beings could stand against the Empire and burn so brightly, what excuse did anyone else have to kneel? The Dominion tried to silence the broadcast. They shut down channels, hunted those who spoke of the humans. But it was too late. The story was alive, carried from world to world like a flame in the dark. They called it the last stand of the horizon. Years later, in secret caves and hidden bunkers, rebels repeated Captain Reyes's final words. "We don't surrender. Not now. Not ever." The humans had crossed into an empire by accident, but they left behind something greater than survival. They left behind defiance. A legend grew that one day humanity would return, not as wanderers but as leaders of a galactic uprising. Whether it was true or not did not matter. What mattered was that the galaxy believed it, and in every heart that longed for freedom.